Welcome to Gaming Instincts TV. Today we have another video for you for Final Fantasy VII Remake, and this time around we will be talking about the battle system, what we know about it so far and what we think needs to happen in order for it to be successful. You see, the issue is that Final Fantasy VII is a very special game due to how advanced it was when it came to visuals, storytelling, and most importantly the game mechanics, which include a system called ATB. ATB stands for Active Time Battle. Now, because Final Fantasy VII is such a classic with many loyal fans, it is very easy to divide the community, especially when it comes to core gameplay mechanics such as the combat. Many say that if Final Fantasy VII Remake does not use the traditional ATB system, then the game will fail, while others are more open to more modern age combat systems such as Kingdom Hearts or Final Fantasy XV. Before we get further into this topic, I'd first like to explain how ATB actually works for those who do not know or need a reminder, but also to just simply give some general context here of what we're talking about in this video. As the name implies, in a system like ATB, each character in the party has a gauge that fills up as time passes. Once the bar is completely full for a character like Cloud for example, he will start taking action of whatever command you gave him. So if I want to do a basic attack, all I have to do is simply go through the battle menus, choose the attack command, and he will attack the enemy once the gauge is filled up fully. The same goes for doing any kind of magic or spell casting, or using an item such as a potion. Some people ask and get confused, so is this considered to be real-time battle or turn-based? The best answer is that it's a combination of both, because you're choosing actions on the go as the time goes on, and the enemy will attack you if you're not quick enough, or take too long to respond or decide rather, but at the same time you are not required to make a decision right this particular second. This is the active time battle system in a nutshell, or ATB for short. Now that we know what ATB is and have that out of the way, let's talk about what we know as far as Final Fantasy VII Remake's combat system goes in terms of facts. After the very first gameplay trailer was shown back at PSX in 2015 in December, producer Yoshinori Kitase has stated that Final Fantasy VII Remake will not be 100% action-based. However, it will have more of that action element than the original game did back in 1997. What that means is that the game will be more action-based, but not 100%. Like Final Fantasy XV as an example. Final Fantasy XV is 100% real-time combat, and Final Fantasy VII Remake will not be that way as far as we know today. Now, he also made it clear that the uniqueness of Final Fantasy battle systems is being able to have the ability to equip your party with different capabilities, magic, and of course equipment, and that is here to stay in Final Fantasy VII Remake, because it is a staple in the Final Fantasy franchise. Last but not least, he also did confirm that you will have 3 active party members during the battle sequences, and you will be able to switch between each of them and take control on the fly. Final Fantasy VII Remake will also have the new ability system, depending on the character's fighting style, and this is a completely new system that they are adding specifically to the remake to make the combat more in-depth, according to Yoshinori Kitase. No, we do not know the name of it or how it actually works. And yes, he is one of the original producers of Final Fantasy VII back in the day, so this is not a random hire or some substitute for the remake, and this is of course a good thing. Here is a very interesting piece of information that may or may not divide the community, and this is again coming from Yoshinori Kitase. The game does have the ATB and limit break gauges that we talked about earlier, but the big difference according to him is that the ATB gauges do not indicate the order of attacks, and that players can attack before the gauge is even filled. Of course, the famous limit breaks are also showed off in the trailer as you guys can see here, and they are reminiscent of the original limit breaks from 1997. Now, does this also apply to the order of items and magic usage as well? We don't know that yet. But this is definitely a little bit different, or actually quite a bit different, from the original ATB system. So the reason why this is a very interesting piece of information is because being able to do an attack before a gauge is filled is the part that makes Final Fantasy VII Remake more action-oriented than the original game. And as I said before, this may or may not piss off the community. However, it does seem that the developers are trying to stay true to the original pretty closely, but with a more modern take on it to appeal to people who are either new to the series and of course veterans such as us who were born in the early 90s. So, how do we feel all about this, and do I personally think this is a good course of action when it comes to the battle system for Final Fantasy VII Remake? Now, as some of you already know, I did not play this game when it originally came out. As a matter of fact, I did not even get into the PlayStation bandwagon until 2001, and my first Final Fantasy game that I remembered very fondly was Final Fantasy X. So my opinion or impression of Final Fantasy games is obviously different than many of the Final Fantasy VII fans. But I did play the game 2 years ago to its completion to see what all the hype was about and why it's such a classic game. And as a person who has both a critical and journalistic perspective in mind, and a gamer perspective as well, I can see and understand why this game was so special in the first place. As a matter of fact, I'm thinking of streaming the entire Final Fantasy franchise when the time comes closer for the Final Fantasy VII Remake, just for the hype and fun. Let me know if you guys and girls would enjoy watching that, but it's not going to be happening for a long while. Anyways, to get back on topic, I am the type of person who always tackles things with an open mind before I make a quick judgment call, unless I'm 1000% confident that something is going to be complete trash. So, my point is that I can understand how many people would be upset that the battle system is not one-to-one of the original, and I can also understand why others want Final Fantasy VII with a more modern spin on it. If you ask me, I think Square is trying to satisfy both types of customers, and the issue with that is that it's physically impossible to make everyone happy, no matter what you do. Overall, I think the approach to keeping the original system with a bit of faster pace and more real-time action is actually a good decision and most likely the best they can do at this point. However, let's be honest, we barely have anything to go off to begin with, and it's hard to make out what's happening right now. The trailer from PSX that showcased gameplay and bits of combat is 3 years and 1 month old, and believe me, a lot can change to a game after 3 or so years of development. If you guys watched my previous video that I made last week, I specifically mentioned that there might be an event coming up in April that will have a massive reveal on the systems of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which obviously includes combat, characters, lore, and things of that nature, assuming that this rumor is even real. At this point, let's reserve the judgment and wait until we get high quality 1080p or 4K footage at 60 frame rates and see how everything looks and feels like before we call it a complete and utter failure, or better yet, the most amazing remake ever made in history of gaming. I still to this day can't believe this pipe dream is actually a reality and that it's actually happening. This is such a classic game that you should be afraid of even touching it, but yet here we are waiting for any piece of tiny information we can get for Final Fantasy VII Remake with our mouths open and drooling at full speed. Sound off in the comments below and let me know what your hopes are and dreams are for the battle system, and if you think Yoshinori Kitase is singing the right tune as far as what he has been saying about the battle system. With that being said, I hope you all enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon next week for more Final Fantasy VII Remake goodness. Peace out, guys.